post-match chat with Chapz for that Millwall podcast where it finished at the Select Car Leasing Stadium. Jesus. Reading 0, Millwall 1. Was it pretty? No. Do I care? The answer is also no. It's all about getting 3 points and how we show resilience and bounce back for that defeat against Norwich, which was hard for us to take. It wasn't that we played badly. And we did that and we got the 3 points, and that's all that matters. It wasn't the prettiest of games. It probably won't live long in the memory, but that is the sort of game that you've got to get 3 points in if you want to be in the top 6, and we did. This is a huge week for us. 3 games that are all winnable, and we need to be taking at least 7 points from this 3 games. So to get 3 points in the first one is absolutely fantastic. Coincidentally, this team has not had back-to-back losses since we lost to Norwich and then Reading in August. And obviously after losing to Norwich last week, it was a case of can we go again? And we did. And the boys did us proud. So let's get into the game. And I felt that the way that Reading play, and let's just sort of set the scene here. Reading have got the best, going into that game, they had the best home form in the league outside the top 4. So at home, they're not a bad side. 80% of their wins have been at home. So they're not a bad side at home. And for me, I felt it was the game was going to be how we could deal with Andy Carroll, who is not the player he once was, but ultimately he's good at what he does. And their best player is Tom Ince by a mile, to be honest, and how we could get close to him and stop him from playing. And then how we impose our game on them through transitions. And that's ultimately where we ended up scoring our goal. I think what we can take from this game is that they had 0 shots on target. They had 0 shots on target and only 2 in total in the whole game. So we limited them to a lot, to barely nothing. And again, it might have not been pretty to watch. And I know a lot of fans after the game have said it's boring, it's this, it's that. But I'll be honest, I don't care. At this stage of the season, I really don't care. It's all about getting 3 points. And I'm fine with that at the moment. So let's get into the game then. So in terms of the lineup yesterday, it was the same back 4. So with obviously Longy in goal. So the same back 4. So Cresswell kept his place. Hutch was still on the bench. Cooper was the captain. And then Murray Wallace, Danny Mack on the defensive fullbacks. In the centre of the park, he went with Leonard and Saville again. So the sort of second game running. And then Fleming ahead of him, Bradshaw up top, and then either side was where the change was made with Honeyman and then Vogie coming back into the team for Ollie Burke. So that was the key change, and obviously Vogie ending up being the match winner. In terms of Reading, so I'm not going to go through their lineup, but of course in terms of noticeable players, Andy Carroll, Tom Ince we've already talked about. The likes of Liam Moore's been around in this league for a while. Never really rated Joe Lumley, their goalkeeper, and coincidentally he was also the person that made the foul for our penalty. And then for me, I don't know the backstory of Lucas João. I don't know if he's injured, if he's got an attitude problem or whatever's going on, something behind the scenes. But how a team like Reading can have Lucas João on the bench, I just don't get it. He's scored 20 goals in this league before. Something's clearly not right. And they opted with Shane Long instead, who is not a bad player. He's a workhorse, but of course he's probably had his day at this level for me. But it'd be interesting to hear what Reading fans think. So the game kicks off, and I think the first 10 minutes, I've got to say, we were, from a pressure standpoint, we were under the cosh. We couldn't really get into the game. And then our goal comes with our first proper opportunity. The ball's played forward. And Bradshaw does superbly well, kind of holds it up and then plays a brilliant reverse pass right into the path of Fleming. But Fleming's got a defender with him. So what Fleming does is he knocks it past the defender. And I'm not doubting that the defender is equally as quick as Fleming, but what he's not is equally as strong. And Fleming bullies him off the ball, runs through into goal. He's got a lot of work to do here, Fleming. Runs through into in level with the D. He can see the goalkeepers come rushing out, and he's just got to get there and touch it first before the keeper does. He knocks it past into the box, goes down, the goalkeeper catches him. It is Stonewall. All I will say, it's a Stonewall foul, I've seen it from a few different angles, and I still can't tell if the contact in or outside the box. I think either way, of course, we'll take it. We've had our fair share of bad luck, but we've also recently had some good luck, with the Luton game and and obviously the Reading game. But either way, we'll take it. And it was definitely a foul. And to be fair to Paul Ince, he didn't complain about it after the game. So maybe they've seen it back. And then you're thinking, who on earth is going to take it? Because we've only had one penalty all season, and that was against Bristol City. In the last minute, we were 2-1 up to go 3-1 up. Benik Afobe, obviously no longer with the club, steps up, and it was a terrible, terrible penalty and misses it. So this is only our second penalty of the season. You think, who's going to take it? And then Vogie steps up. And you don't really know what to expect. And I learned after the game that was his first penalty he's taken in a match for 3.5 years, which is mental when you think about it. And obviously our first penalty since the Bristol City victory on the road. And I have to say, what a penalty. Vogie's got this ability, and we'll come on to the second half, of being able to lever a ball but put it into a right area. And he did exactly that with the penalty spot. Top corner, hit with power, an absolutely superb penalty. And for a Millwall player, it was a bloody good penalty. And after the game, Rowett joked that Vogie said, because I'm German, so of course I'm going to score. But he does, and he scores. And we're 1-0 up. And again, we've got a habit recently, particularly on the road, of scoring early goals. And it's a case of, what do we do now? Do we sit back and try and defend this lead, which we are good at? Or do we try and go and get a second? Unfortunately, we did the former, and we did sit back. And for the rest of the first half, they had a lot of the ball. I felt that our ball retention was really poor, but they really didn't threaten us much. And again, I'd be interested to hear thoughts from Reading fans, but their approach was essentially just to put balls into the box. And it was a really interesting dynamic between Andy Carroll and Cresswell, because I felt initially Carroll was winning that battle. But I have to say, come the end of the game, Cresswell won that battle. And I thought Charlie Cresswell was absolutely superb again yesterday. Couple of dodgy sort of bits of distribution from him in the second half, but overall his defensive play was superb. So the rest of the first half, I'm just looking through my notes, and there's nothing massively to call out. What I would say is there were a couple of instances that I want to call out George Long. So there was one time where I think it was a free kick. Tom Ince, Murray Wallace gives away a stupid free kick. We keep doing this, edge of boxes and things like that. Free kick comes in, Long just comes and takes it. And that just relieves the pressure for us a lot. The other thing as well, I would say about George Long, and it's something that may or may not go unnoticed. When we're under the cosh, which seems to be a lot of the time at the moment, particularly away, his ability to kick the ball and clear it 80, 90 yards or whatever it is up the field just takes the pressure off us. Because there's a couple of times in the last couple of games that I've noticed, we've gone from being under the cosh, sort of fanning around with it at the back, and Long clears it, and it ends up going out for a throw-in for them, but it's a throw-in for them near the corner flag. And as a player, you don't underestimate the ability of things like that, because yes, all right, we're conceding possession to them, but we're conceding possession to them right in their corner flag, where we're good at winning the ball back in second balls. So there's little things like that I reckon they worked on, because it's ultimately, when you actually strip it back at the game of football, it's about, trying to get as much as the play up the other end, and obviously taking your chances. And it's little things like that I think sometimes go unnoticed. And as you know, if you listen to these often enough, I've not always been a George Long fan, but I thought yesterday didn't have to do much, but what he did very, very well. So yes, anyway, so the first half finishes, and there was lots of offsides. Nothing really to call out. As I say, I'm just looking at my notes. I didn't think we played great, but they didn't really threaten us in the first half. And we go in 1-0 up. And I felt confident at half time, because I felt we looked like a team that was organised and everyone knew their job. And that's what you get when you've got a good coach and you've got tactics that are clearly deployed, and you have players that were honest professionals and carry those out. And it's basics. And sometimes, we're not the best group of players, but we're the better team because of things like that. So I felt we were organised, and I didn't really see it wasn't too much pressure. Then the second half kicks off, and it's much of the same really in terms of the first half, where I felt that Reading had a lot of the ball. I think the possession stats will show that, but without really threatening. The only shot that I can really think of note from Reading was a Tom Ince shot where Leonard does really, really well, just enough to kind of put him off. And that was the only real shot of note, which I think was on the sort of 60-something minute mark. What I will say about Tom Ince is that he's a good player, but he just constantly just spends his time whinging. And then both him and I think Paul Ince, his old man, ended up getting booked. So I don't know if there's a stat there in terms of father and son getting booked in the same match. Or was it Alex Rowe got booked? I don't know. Anyway, I'm just looking through my notes again in the second half, and I think really they had a sort of a 10-15 minute spell between sort of 60 and 75 where they were really applying the pressure. That's when that Tom Ince chance comes. And you're thinking to yourself, we probably need to change it. And I felt that when we did change it, the subs were a little bit late. And I think that's something that a few people have voiced as well. But ultimately, the proof's in the pudding, and we won and we got the job done. I did feel as though we were a bit under pressure. They've got, as I say, the way they play is just to pump balls into the box. And they made some changes. And at one point, they had Naby Sarr, Scott Dan, Andy Carroll and Lucas Zhao, who I think all were 6'4" plus. So in this instance, it is right to bring Hutch on. At Luton, no, because they haven't got a big aerial threat. But in this instance, it makes sense. So the changes come, and he brings on he brings on Hutch, and he also brings on Oliver Burke. And I have to say, after that sort of 10-15 minutes of pressure they had, making those changes, it did seem to work. I felt that Burke gave us a bit more pace and also gave us a bit more of an out ball. Still needs to go in a little bit harder on some of those 50-50s, but a lot of the good play in the last 10 minutes come from stuff that Burke was involved in. And Hutch, although I think he actually looked quite shaky again when he came on, I have to say, but the structure and the going 5 at the back, I think in this instance did work. And I have to say, I was worried that it wasn't going to be the right thing to do, but it works. And I think the sort of last sort of 10 minutes or so, we actually, I think it was on 79, 80 minutes, we have a breakaway. I think it's from their corner. So the corner comes in, cleared away again, superb defending once more from our back line. One of their players just about keeps it in and tries to recycle it back into the box. And in between Bradshaw and Burke, they break them down and we start to counter. And obviously with the pace of Burke, this is where we can be really, really good in transition. So Burke carries the ball forwards and he's got Bradshaw to the left and Fleming to the right. Now, he chooses to play in Bradshaw, but his ball is slightly behind Bradshaw. And then Bradshaw's touch is a very, very tired touch. He looked... I have to say it's the most tired I've seen. I've seen Tom Bradshaw, and obviously he's had more of a rest than normal as well, which was a little bit concerning. But for me, it was the wrong ball. He should have played it to Fleming, and then it was a poor touch from Bradshaw. So I've seen a lot of people sort of saying it's all Burke's fault. For me, it's not. It's both of them, and it's an opportunity to really finish the game off and put us 2-0 up. But we don't. And there's a couple of nervy moments before the end, but in reality, the game peters out, and I never really felt, other than that sort of 10-minute spell where they had a lot of pressure, it didn't feel to me like the Stoke game, where I honestly felt like we were just constantly under the cosh and they were just breaking us down. I didn't really feel like that. I felt quite comfortable, which is a weird position to be in, and we end up winning the game 1-0. And it is a bit different to the Stoke game because I think Stoke are a better team than Reading. And they've won, I think, 2 on the bounce since then. And it just shows you the fine margins in this league. And that's something I want to touch on. I think after the game, Paul Ince said that that both Sheffield United and Millwall aren't better sides than Reading. And I think whilst that's an emotional comment from him, what I will say is I don't think there's much in a lot of these teams in the Championship, to be honest with you. There's a couple of standouts. I think Middlesbrough are a very good team now, and I think obviously Burnley are one of the best teams this league's ever seen. But other than that, I also think Norwich on their day are right up there. But other than that, I don't think there is a lot. But I think what he fails to realise is one team yesterday was more organised, better coached and more structured. And that is why we won the game and Reading have taken nothing from it. But that's the fine margins in the Championship. In terms of players and the quality of the actual 11 that are on the pitch, I don't think there is much difference between them. But in reality, this is where the togetherness of the group, the resilience, the character and the Rowett factor come in for me. And we make it 7 away wins for the season. I think that's 10 points from the last 4 away games, which is just a phenomenal return. And that is absolutely key to why we are now where we are in the league. Because when you look back at last season, we won 5 away games all season. We've already won 7. We knew that a home form, well, obviously you can't take it for granted, but a home form is always going to be fairly decent. And this season, our home form is currently 8th, but it's not a true reflection because we played more away games than we have home games. If we win our next home game, it will be a top 6 home form. Our away form this season is also 8th now. And last season it was bottom half, and I think that's the difference. We've maintained broadly our home form, and our away form has improved. And obviously it's been the last couple of months where the away form's improved, which is where we found the consistency. And yeah, it's not pretty to watch on the road. When you look at the last 3 home games, we've had a 3-2 against Sheffield United, a 3-2 the wrong way against Norwich, and a 1-1 against Burnley. They were exciting games to watch for the neutral. There's no doubt in it. A 1-0 win at Stoke and a 1-0 win at Reading, they're boring to tears. They are. But it's effective and it's 6 points and 2 clean sheets. I'm taking away the Luton game. But the point here is I don't care if we win ugly on the road. I really don't. It's all about getting those 3 points. And now with our away form really picking up, this is where we can... Where the difference is this season. We've got 2 games until the break. This is what I said when I started this video. This week is massive for us. Swansea at home, devout of confidence, good football inside, really good football inside, but clearly they can't defend because they were 1-0 up against Middlesbrough for the first 45 minutes, which is no mean feat. And I remember playing them and they played some nice stuff when we drew 2-2 with them. But they can't defend and they can be got at. We've got to pick up at least 4 points in the next 2 games, because then it's Swansea and then it's Huddersfield. My only concern is, can we go again? Bradshaw looked dead on his feet at the end of the game. That's my major concern because we don't have another 9. And I've said this a few times, and I know the club tried to get Nisbet in, but could that one player just having one more central forward option? Burt can play there, Watmore can play there, Vogel can play there, but they're not number 9s. We need another number 9, and that's my concern. But 4 points at least from the next 2 games, and then you've got almost like a mini season. You've got 8 games from that. After the international break, you've got 8 games, and 3 of them are Blackburn at home, Luton at home, and West Brom away. They are massive games, massive games. Last game of the season at home to Blackburn could be huge, because I think Blackburn are a little bit similar to us. They haven't got a big squad. They have been grinding results out, and they're probably looking at us thinking, "Oh, you're going to fall off," and I'm looking at them thinking they're going to fall off. So it could be a really interesting last game of the season. But look, 10 games, we're in the top 6 as things stand. As I'm recording this, Sunderland are winning at Norwich, so we'll see what happens there, which if that's the case, I think a draw would be a perfect result for us, because I think Sunderland would probably have a little bit too much to do, possibly. It would be a great result because it would keep us, I think, in the top 6, a draw. I need to check the goal difference. But 10 games left, and to be in and around the top 6 is fantastic. Out of those 10 games, we've got 6 at home. Luton, Blackburn, crucial, as I say. And then we've got two games coming up, Swansea and Huddersfield, which are both winnable, and this period will define our season. So that's kind of my view of the game yesterday. I haven't really gone into massive detail on moments and chances in the game because there weren't. I think we had 7 shots to their 2. There wasn't many chances created. So what I'll do now is I'll go through the players. What I am going to start doing, a few people have mentioned it. I'm not going to do it today because I've literally just thought about it, so I'm not going to do it today. Is to sort of do player ratings. But I'll talk a little bit about each player now. So George Long didn't have much to do. But a couple of times he come and collected the ball. He didn't make a save, but he come and collected the ball. And at times I thought his distribution was useful in terms of getting us up the pitch. So, yeah, not really much you can say on George Long. The fullbacks I felt were good. Neither of them spectacular, but they were good, effective, and largely stopped Reading playing. So good performances from the fullbacks, Murray Wallace and Danny Mack. The centre halves again were colossal. Honestly, I keep saying it, but you almost now expect it of the pair of them. Both Cooper and Cresswell. I want to call out Cresswell because to win that battle with a very experienced player in Andy Carroll was superb, and I honestly, hand on heart, think he won that battle. So fair play to Charlie Cresswell. At times, some of his distribution going forward looked a little bit nervy, but defensively he was outstanding and right up there for player of the man of the match for me. Central midfield, I thought Leonard and Sav were brilliant. I thought they broke up a lot of play. I thought the game was played at quite a slow pace, actually, apart from some of the moments in transition. And that suits Saville, because Saville is a very, very good player, but he's not the quickest, and he actually takes quite a lot of time on the ball. But when he's got time on the ball, he looks like a classy player. And I thought he was great yesterday. And for me, for man of the match, it would be between Saville and Cresswell, with honourable mentions for Mr. Fleming, because everything positive went through him. Obviously, he had a lot to do to win the penalty for the goal. A couple of times he sort of played some really nice balls through for other players in the team. He also, what he's able to do is he switches the play quite effectively. A couple of times in the second half, he'd get the ball, sort of turn, have a look what's over, and just sort of switch the play. And he breaks the lines. That's, I guess, what I'm looking to try and say. He's our player that breaks lines. And I thought he was brilliant again yesterday. Absolutely superb. And then the next player, who largely I thought was very, very good, and I know a few people won't like this, but Vogie, superb penalty. There's no doubt there's pressure on that. And he put some wicked balls in the box twice in the second half. He's strange because he seems to have very good technical ability on the ball. Because what he's able to do is whip the ball into a perfect area, but with pace, which is rare, particularly at this level. And there was a couple of times where, there was one in particular in the second half where he sort of knocks it past Yeardon, whacks it into the box right across the face of goal. And if someone had a gamble, it could have been 2-0. And he's really, really good at that. The bit he's not so good at for me is his kind of ability off the ball. He works hard, but in terms of his positional awareness, that's the bit I think that he lacks. His overall game wasn't amazing, but he has these moments of real quality, and I think the crosses and the penalty were representative of that. Honeyman, again, very, very typical Honeyman performance. He's very, very clever in small areas, which is interesting because I don't think he has the best first touch, but he's able to sort of wriggle out. And his work rate off the ball is fantastic. He's organised. He knows where he needs to be. He epitomises the way in which we set up and the way we're structured. Another really good performance from Honeyman. And then Bradshaw, I felt he was one of his quieter games yesterday. I have to say his involvement for the first goal was brilliant. Don't underestimate that. But he looked really tired yesterday, and I'm concerned, if I'm honest, because in theory he's got to go again 2 more times in a week. But overall, a decent performance. So no one played badly. I don't think anyone was spectacular. If I had to give a man of the match, it would probably be between Saville and Cresswell. And then in terms of the substitutes, Hutch come on, helped from a structural standpoint. I felt he was quite shaky at times, and I think there was one moment in the right at the death where he sort of really cocked up a clearance and it ended up being nothing. But he does look a bit shaky at the minute. So I guess what Rowett's doing is trying to ease him back in gradually, rather than sort of start him. And I thought Burke, similar to what I said against Norwich, his pace and his stature and his ability, his power is so good. And at times, I'm like, oh, he doesn't have a football brain. But then he will find passes, like the pass to Bradshaw yesterday, in the game yesterday. It wasn't that it was, for me, he chose the wrong pass, but it wasn't necessarily a bad pass in terms of where to play it. He just didn't execute properly. It's weird. Maybe it's technique or something. I don't know. And at times, he, for such a big bloke, he doesn't, I feel like he could do more in 50-50s. I wouldn't say he bottles them, but I feel he could do a bit more. I honestly think he's got all of the credentials. I just think, I don't know what it is. It's just like, if he was to dial up an extra 10%, he could be a match winner for a top 6 team in this league, easily. But I'd rather have him than not. And I mean that. I think he's very, very valuable. I think he's the first sub you bring on in an attacking change. And it's interesting that we've got Watmore and Essay that both didn't come on yesterday, which therefore means they're fresh, hopefully, for Tuesday and Saturday. And I would like to see them both play a part. So that's it, really. I think if we take a step back, we're in and around the top 6. We've got 10 games to go. We've got a small squad. Everyone's together. The fans yesterday, again, absolutely superb. It's all you could hear. The only time, really, I heard Reading fans was when they got annoyed at the ref. Other than that, it was the drum. Not for me. You couldn't get a more different club to us than Reading. But, you know, each to their own. Fair play. Not here to criticise. And we roll on. And it is just such, I keep saying it, but it's such a good time to be a fan. It's also a nervy time to be a fan because you're thinking, could this be our chance? But look, I would encourage everyone, if you can. I know it's a pain in the backside to get there on a Tuesday night after work. I'm no exception, but get down there if you can, and let's get behind this team, because 2 huge games. If we can win those 2 games, I guarantee you win those 2 games, we'll be in the top 5 going into that last 8, and then it's all in our hands and all to play for, and we've got teams to play around us. So look, hope you enjoyed that. I just will ask one thing. For those that want me to do player ratings, is it like an out of 10? Do you want me to give out of 5? Like, how do you want me to do it? Just drop me a comment if you can in the chat. Really appreciate you listening as always. Listen to me ramble on. And we hit our first 1,000. God knows how 1,000 of you listen to me ramble on. I don't know, but 1,000 views for the Norwich game. So really appreciate it. And look, hope whatever's left of your weekend or whenever you're listening to this, that you have a good one. So yeah, hopefully see you down the den in the next week. Let's keep on moving. Bye for now.